G'day everyone and welcome again to the chat. I love talking to everyone in the rider racing industry, but one particular part of the industry I haven't really spoken to too much is owners. And joining me today is the Chief Executive of the Queensland Thoroughbred Owners Association, Ben Mannion. G'day Ben, how are you mate?
Morning Ben, how are you mate?
Yeah, very well, thank you. First of all, a bit of a game changer happening up there in Queensland with the re-establishment, or should we say the relaunching of the Queensland Thoroughbred Owners Association.
Yeah, so we've had some time since we've had a functional owners association up here, you know, there's some people that have done some wonderful work in that space, and you know, back 10 years ago, you know, it was a functioning, really great organisation to be part of, but since probably 2015, 16, it hasn't really done too much. It was involved in some discussions around government, around point of consumption tax and things like that when that came in. But right now, the industry needs a really good functional owners association to be able to take a seat at the table with industry. So there's a lot of things around prize money and racing schedules and everything from you know, sectionals at race clubs and things like that aren't happening here in Queensland. We'd love to take it up the line and have those discussions.
So hopefully it'll therefore mean that no longer in Queensland do owners feel like they're being represented by a toothless tiger, because I know that TROA down here, in Victoria, sometimes they're criticised for being a toothless tiger. They can't really do too much.
Yeah, for us, our focus right now is on the existing owner base here in Queensland. There's around about 20,000 people that sit across Queensland. 70% of those sit in regional areas. So, and Queensland's such a big state, you know, over 100 race courses across the state as well. So, you know, there's a pretty big opportunity here for us to be able to engage with a lot of people and a lot of people that are in the industry to be able to deliver a whole range of rights and benefits for them, and also be able to have those conversations with Racing Queensland and Racing Australia and government for that matter, around, you know, things that are really important for the industry. So prize money is obviously one of those, which is, you know, the industry's, particularly through COVID's, been great from a turnover perspective. And, you know, there's some really good dollars coming into the industry. So we want to be able to have a conversation around, you know, where we invest that money into the future, but also what the race day experience is like for owners. And we need to engage race clubs to be able to have those conversations. But Racing Queensland needs to play a part in that space as well, and particularly around attracting new owners to the sport.
You have some pretty heavy hitters on your board, including one Peter Tyre, who owned Winx.
Yeah, so Pete doesn't need too much introduction, which is great in relation to the racing industry, and he opens quite a few doors for us. But he's also passionate about, you know, making sure the owners' experience and new people coming into the sport have a great time when they come here. So the last thing we want to do is spend a lot of time and energy in bringing new people into the sport only to let them down when we get to race days or to membership around the Owners Association. So this day in the digital world, it's really important that we talk to people like yourself. We have content that's available readily, because everything's moving so quickly that they need that information really quickly. So we're creating this body, Queensland Thoroughbred Owners Association, where people can get access to a whole heap of content, you know, on a daily, weekly, fortnightly basis, and be able to be given the information at first hand when that happens. So that's probably where we're trying to go at the moment. And so far, you know, we've only just started the business, and people will find out about this fairly soon in Queensland when Racing Queensland writes to them over the next week or so. And hopefully from that perspective, we aren't that toothless tiger that you're talking about. We actually can engage with the right people within the industry and have some really clear and precise outcomes.
Probably also good that you have a bit of a breeder's perspective on your board too, because a lot of owners do breed too, and you've got Linda Huddy from Peachester Lodge on board too, on your board.
Yeah, so Linda and Graham Huddy have been great for the industry as well. They've had some success, and they do a lot of breeding, as well as Gary Cunningham and Chris Wessel from Archer Park. So those guys have been involved in that space for some time. They add a lot of credibility to our board. Our board is chaired by Alex Panklis, who has a number of shares in horses with Tony Gollan and Stewie Kenrick. And, you know, we've got a couple of other people that are involved as well. So from that particular point of view, the breeding side of things ties into the ownership structure as well. We need the whole piece to work together really well, and be able to offer people that experience when they come to the races as well.
And just on yourself, Ben, have you currently got any shares in any horses at the moment yourself?
I've been in the industry probably just on 15 years. As a breeder, syndicator, owner, a whole range of things. And we made a family decision to get out in about March. And then they came, and the Thoroughbred Owners Association came knocking, just help them set this thing up. And it's such a big beast. There's lots of moving parts with this at the moment. So I've got quite a few people right now encouraging me to get back into racehorse ownership. But for me right now, having the independence to be able to talk to people without worry of, you're dealing with that person and you've got horses with that person, has been able to be really beneficial, because I've got an actual clean slate with this, and I'm able to have the discussions and robust discussions around what I think is best for the industry and best for the owner structure. So no doubt quickly I'll be back into it, but had some success with a horse called State of Wealth in Brisbane. Used to be trained by Brian Smith, and had some horses in here with 2K Thoroughbreds up here, Accomplish and Cheese Imperial. So had some success over the last couple of years. So I'll be looking to get back into it. And I'm involved in a sporting and racing networking group called Early Thoughts. And those guys have had some success with their horse Early Thoughts on Saturday that won at the Gold Coast, and another horse, Royal Hail, that won it in Brisbane last week. So I'm not too far away from that. And everyone's having a ball and seeing their horses race at the racetrack, which is great for us in Queensland here at the moment.
You're quite an experienced sports administrator, having worked across a number of sports and also spent time at Nissan Arena in Brisbane. Could you tell me a bit about sort of your career away from racing?
Yeah, so I started my career in finance and then into media, and then back in 2011 was involved in joining the Brisbane Roar Football Club as their commercial sales manager. And then that has allowed me to stay in sport for the last 10 years or so, which has been in and around football or soccer, CEO of Queensland Touch Football, and then into the Commonwealth Games, where I led the sport testing and readiness program across 18 sports, and had a heavily influence in how the sport run from that side of things. And then fortunate enough to run Nissan Arena over the last 18 months. So Nissan Arena last year became the epicenter for all Suncorp Super Netball games. We ran 36 games out of there in 9 months, or probably a lot shorter actually. We had netball and basketball out of there, so 36 Suncorp Super Netball games and 15 national basketball games with the Brisbane Bullets playing out of there, as well as community sport and other major events. So it was a pretty significant full-on year. We were all broken by the end of the year. But I think for us, we were just grateful for the fact that we had sport being played within the state, and we were able to keep a lot of the legs, going. So from that perspective, I've been quite fortunate to work in some really great sports and some pretty great roles.
And just back on the QTOA, how much is membership, and what kind of benefits can owners who join up, can they receive?
Yeah, so we wanted to go down the path of having a minimal fee. So it's $90 plus GST, so it's under $2 a week. And the idea for me at the time was I've seen different membership structures and modelling where people have given things out for free. Once you do that sort of things, you lose your value. You might get a database and things like that, but you actually lose your value in what you're trying to promote and present. So the first important piece is around the advocacy piece. So, we need a really strong, robust owners association to be able to take things up the line when we need to. So the industry is heard from an owner's experience perspective. The owners put a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars into the industry every year, and we don't have a seat at the table at the moment. So there'll be people that have conversations with trainers and up the line that way, which is great. And the trainer and owner relationship is really important. But for us, the advocacy piece of being able to provide content and information through into us is really important, and the race day experience that they might have, or the owner's experience that they might have. Secondly, from a communication perspective, we want to be engaged with our members on a weekly basis, and there'll be information surveys and things like that come out both on a monthly and quarterly basis, where we can take that information up the line to Racing Queensland. We'll have a number of events, and then we are working with quite a few partners across the industry. So we'll announce some really cool relationships over the next coming weeks. One of those is Mitch Graham's suits and studio. So we get 25% off suits, which is great. And the other exciting one we've got at the moment is with a company called FanFave, which is around merchandise. So we are able to have our own merchandise line, if you like. And FanFave have come on board in giving every member that comes on board a $20 voucher when they sign up. And then they can go to their store and effectively buy some polos and jackets and hats. And for us, that marketing piece is really important, that people sort of buy those bits of merchandise and are able to wear them in some really cool situations for us. So, and we'll be announcing a number of other benefits that come out. But a really important piece of this is that we have an industry body for the owners that is able to have a seat at the table with some really key industry participants.
And you talk about free, you're exactly right. I mean, down here with TOA, as soon as you have a starter in Victoria, you automatically get the owner's gold card system. Has there ever been anything like that in Queensland?
So the old Owners Association used to do a card, something similar. We, as I said, we toyed up about what to do in that space. One of the challenges with that up here, and I'm sure it happens in Victoria as well, is that the race clubs have a constitution, and the constitution will have some rules and regulations around their membership structure, and those members effectively pay upwards of $200, $300, $400 to be a member every year, and they'll get a range of rights and benefits. With the owner's card, I know the old owner's card in Queensland, they had access to essentially members areas and race clubs every week, without a fee attached to that. So there was essentially some argy-bargy in that space. And, we're not going to lean on the race clubs here right now and say we demand something similar, because I think there's something in this space that we can all work together so that there's some consistency across each of the race clubs. When an owner goes to a race club across the state, no matter where it is, that there's some consistency around when they walk in the door, they're welcomed, they get their tickets, they can access a members area. They can access an area within the race course, doesn't necessarily have to be a members area. And we might do that half a dozen to a dozen times a year, as opposed to every Saturday or every Wednesday. So we're still going to work that out with race clubs. We're hoping that both race clubs, trainers, ourselves, owners can all be part of the conversation in that. But we want to have the overall, owners experience or race day experience to be matched by those other sports that have members and bring them into their games. And so I'm kind of treating this a little bit like a professional sporting team in relation to deliverables around rights and benefits. So how can we get your business on our webpage? How can we help you and as an owner in your business be engaged with other syndicators that you might be able to bring people in to the sport? So there's some really cool stuff that we want to be able to do in that space.
From a QTOA perspective, what kind of role do you feel owners play in racing, and what do they contribute to the industry?
Well, right now they play a pretty significant role in the fact that they're putting in a lot of money, and the return from a prize money perspective, based on the fact that the turnover's gone up so significant, the percentage back has actually dropped. But that's predominantly because COVID's been so wonderful in relation to turnover, essentially, back to racing Queensland. So I think for us, there's a lot of people that have been in the industry a long time. They love seeing their horses race when they can at the racecourse. But I guess the digital world that we live in now, it's really accessible. So you can see it on Sky, obviously, on your phone, or you can download an app, or those sorts of things. So I guess for us, we want to make more than just that for owners. So there might be monthly events, or there might be, bring a friend, might have an owner that has a friend that wants to be involved in races and stuff like that. So how do we engage with those people, and how do we keep those people engaged in the racing industry, and making sure that retention is in place by providing a whole heap of benefits to them? So they're a significant, important part of the industry, and without them, we wouldn't have one, I don't think.
And racing in Queensland have been criticised for a number of years now about how racing is running in the state. What are your thoughts on the current situation? Because from an outsider, here in Victoria, and from what I get told and what I read, it looks like the situation definitely is improving up there.
Yeah, so Brendan Parnell's been in the seat for some time, and obviously the biggest point up here in Queensland's have been the Eagle Farm track, and it seems that they've been able to come to a solution last week, I think it was. So they're looking to get through to the winter 2022 season, and then look at potentially pulling that up and having the same grass that's at Doomben, essentially. So that's a really good outcome because, we've got on our board just alone, we've got people that send their horses to Eagle Farm, obviously. And I think the sooner we get an outcome for trainers and owners in that space is really important. I'm quite close with a number of people that are on the board of Racing Queensland, and I know the management team really, really well, and I know where they're going. I know their strategic plan. I know, what they want to do in relation to owners as well. So, that particular, and they're investing in infrastructure as well. So Gold Coast will get some upgrades soon, which is great. In other codes, they're going to bring in the Greater Brisbane Greyhound Centre, which will be then at greyhounds taken away from Albion Park, and then there'll be a chance to do something similar with harness racing. So from that perspective and their engagement with government, they're getting answers really quickly. They got support in government from that perspective. The relationship between race clubs and Racing Queensland will always need to improve where possible, because I think, Racing Queensland, while they're responsible for key parts, the overall race day experience sits with the race club. So if you've had a really bad experience or you didn't get your tickets or whatever it is, race clubs are doing a fantastic job as best as they can in a time where they might not be turning over as much money as they previously have. So it's a fine balance, and Racing Queensland are doing a lot around that infrastructure fund and being able to invest in actual infrastructure to improve the race clubs, which I think is a pretty significant and important piece.
Just on the plans for the Gold Coast, I spoke to Steve Lyons, the chief executive there last year in the lead up to the Magic Millions this year, and even Brett Cook, the chairman too, who I know reasonably well. They're genuinely excited about what it will do for for that entire glitter strip of the Gold Coast. Imagine it, Friday night racing at the Gold Coast, and just also improved training facilities too, and also the actual track, because there's been criticism of the track surfaces sometimes there at the Gold Coast as well.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I'm a Gold Coast boy.
Yep.
Went to the Gold Coast Turf Club when I was 19 and,
yep.
Have been going, since. And for me, what they're doing in and around Magic Millions and other race days there now, the Gold Coast Turf Club, their board and management team are quite proactive in what they're doing. But I think it totally flips it on its head around, night racing and the opportunity to promote that across the world and that vision across the world of what they can do. Obviously, there's going to be some challenges around how, and I'm sure Victoria has this already, where trainers are up early and horses are being trained early in the morning, and then racing at night is always a bit of a difficulty. But I think, the industry needs to work together on that, because I think the overall marketing opportunity and vision and what we can actually do, and the new people that can come to the races around night racing, particularly on the Gold Coast, is something that it's another thing that you can do on the Gold Coast. Gold Coast is renowned for nightlife and getting out to restaurants and all those sorts of things. So it's important that that clubs like the Gold Coast use all of the facility that it has in being able to promote the sport the best that it can. Night racing is one of those things.
And how do we make racehorse ownership attractive for younger people to get involved? Because sometimes a lot of younger people, they purely view the races as an opportunity to put on a jacket and tie and go and get pissed, excuse my French, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So like we've done previously with women in racing and I've obviously worked in quite a few different sports, the important piece in this whole process is we need to be asking the young people what they want. I think many times I've seen in sport, particularly sports that want to have a women's strategy or a girl's strategy, and it's being led by 7 or 8 men. I think that's, in this instance, we want to be able to have a young person's, let's call it steering committee, if you like, a regional steering committee, women racing steering committee, so that we can get access and engagement with all levels of people that want to come to the races. And I know that Peter V'landys did something, with the Everest in and around trying to attract that younger generation. Then we need to be able to engage with our young people here as well and sort of understand what that race day experience looks like. The biggest race day in and around Eagle Farm outside of carnival time is a race day called the Mecca Race Day, which is an Eka holiday race day, but Mecca's picked it up as a partner, and uni students and younger people, flock to those race days. We want to be able to understand, what else you want, not just make it one race day. What are the other things? And if you want to get involved in horse racing ownership, how do we help that process as well? And who do you talk to? So.
One last one, Ben, away from horse racing and work, what does Ben Mannion like to do in his spare time?
Well, Saturday afternoon I have a punt, but I've got a young family who is just starting off in soccer and netball and volleyball for kids and stuff like that. So spend a bit of time doing those sorts of things. Been involved in lots of other sports as well. I sit on the Greyhound Racing Queensland committee. I don't have a background in racing, but was brought in particularly around the Greater Brisbane Greyhound Centre and that venue and ways that we can generate revenue or utilise that revenue in and around not just greyhound racing effectively. So from that perspective, engage in quite a few different sports and in and around that space keeps me busy. And then the beach is so great here on the Gold Coast as well. So and we're just coming into spring soon, so I think the hot weather will start to come, which is great. And then this is taking up a fair bit of time as well. So there's not a lot of spare time at the moment, but I'm enjoying it when I can.
Mannion, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate the time, mate.
Thank you.